Hello and welcome into the Jefferson My Drinks Fantasy Podcast, the pod on a mission to normalise 8-team leagues. Thank you for tuning in and listening to our best ball preview. It's best ball season. I'm Pete McManus and I'm joined by Ian Harrison and Alan Monk. How are we, boys?
How do
day.
you, I guess?
Everyone happy?
Yeah,
Oh.
happy-ish, yeah.
It's less than 100 days.
H
till the
looks
season
thrilled.
kicks off.
Thrilled to be here.
I know.
In fact,
So someone
it's
at work last week had the audacity to turn around to me and say, "Oh, I don't know what I'm going to do now the Premier League season's finished." I was like, "Oh, are you kidding?" So the NFL season finished in February.
County
Finished in
cricket
December
season.
for the Bengals.
I
February
had
to
to
September.
work.
Don't talk to me.
I had to work this week, and part of my I have to work every week, but part of my job this week was to take a couple of people to watch England against Senegal on Tuesday night at the City Ground. Which I mean, this is not a football as we Premier League football podcast, but I mean it's very obvious who I support if you've ever watched us on YouTube or know anything about me. And I have a newfound love for the Old Trafford and watching Man United because England are terrible. That was one of the worst nights of my entire life. I was like, I almost fell asleep halfway through the second half. I was like, this is the worst football I think I've ever seen. So, yeah, enough of that. Let's have a break from that and then roll on the new NFL season.
Yeah.
So we're talking best ball. We're moving out of Dynasty and into best ball. This is our first best ball. First time we really chatted best ball. I know a few of us have been playing various different best ball formats, and so what we thought we'd do today, we're going to do a mock on the next episode. And what we thought we'd do today is we'll have a bit of a chat of some news, update everybody who's listening on the latest news, and see what you two think of some of the latest signings, some of which everybody saw coming, and some which some people didn't see coming. And then we'll get into who we like and who we don't like, or as Ian has aptly called it,
Fade or rave.
Fade or rave in best ball. So we'll get to that in a bit. First off, the Steelers have got a quarterback.
They always had a quarterback.
Didn't see that coming.
They always had two quarterbacks. There's Will Howard and Mason Rudolph, and that was enough for some.
How are you feeling about your division rivals having a future Hall of Famer at quarterback?
Yeah, well, when we say future Hall of Famer, we talk about when he was at the Packers.
Yeah,
he is no longer that same guy, and I am not at the least. To be fair, we'll always give a game a year to the Steelers anyway, regardless of who's playing at quarterback. So we'll do what we always do, and we'll go 1-on-1 with them.
The bit I didn't understand was, and they're not paying him a massive amount of money from what I saw in terms of the quarterback landscape. But the bit I don't understand is why it's taken so long. And the only thing I've heard is that he didn't want to do the voluntary stuff. And the bit I don't understand about like the term voluntary suggests he could have signed 6 weeks ago and not done that anyway, because as soon as he's got to mandatory minicamp, he signed and he's turned up. I'm like, why didn't you sign 6 weeks ago? And we don't have to have all of this circus about you. And then just say, I've signed, but I'm not doing voluntary OTAs or whatever. I'm just going to turn up to minicamp.
Yeah,
I think the problem.
Go on, H.
I think the problem with it is that a lot of people would have nitpicked at him that he's joining a new offense, he's joining a new scheme, and he's new. Because I heard one of the NFL, like the official NFL stuff, like having a right go at him, and he hadn't even signed. And it was like, he should be with the Steelers. Well, no, he shouldn't, because he doesn't have a contract with the Steelers. Like, it's a cheap deal for a quarterback who on his best day was terrific. He's not that player anymore. I think the Achilles has really hurt him, but he's still a very talented quarterback. Regardless of what we think of him as a person, he is a very talented quarterback. I just don't. A few weeks ago, the Steelers were a far better team when they had Pickens in it than what he's going to be throwing to now, because I think realistically they've only got Metcalf.
And does it?
You mean Super Bowl winning Pickens?
Yeah.
Kenny said Kenny Pickett. Actually.
Yeah. Wrong one.
Wrong guy.
Wrong guy. Does this improve your prediction for DK Metcalf, or does it not really affect him in any way?
I think he's obviously got a better quarterback, so yeah, it's now it's not a bad move. I still think giving up a second and £30 million a year for him is ridiculous. So, I think that's a stupid move.
I don't think you mentioned that before.
I know I should have really, but I if I'm DK Metcalf, I am far happier now than I was a couple of weeks ago when I'm catching passes from Mason Rudolph.
Definitely.
Which, I think there must have been something that he knew that he was going there, and he knew that he was going to have a quarterback, because I don't think you go. But I suppose 30 million is a lot of money, so you'd take it and run, wouldn't you?
30 million reasons to go every single year.
Yeah.
Ian, just put a bow on it. Where do you, if you had to put your money down now on the Steelers record in 2025?
10-7.
10-7. Has that changed since Rodgers signed, or is that
it's
just the Steelers, isn't it? 10-7.
It's just 10-7.
10-7 smashed in wildcard weekend.
Yeah.
By the Bills again.
Same script. Or they're absolutely dreadful and Aaron Rodgers gets Tomlin sacked.
I can't see that happening.
That's what he does.
Nah.
It's going to be interesting to see. I can see them doing exactly what they did last year and starting really well, but we'll see. In running back news, the Texans have got a new running back.
Yeah.
Mixon's a bit dodgy, not particularly reliable in terms of injury news. So you thought you'd bring in someone really reliable, never really been injured.
Yeah.
So
there's the rumours are Joe Mixon's had a foot surgery this off-season. He's still in a walking boot, so it makes total sense to take a chance on Nick Chubb, who's, yes, he had the horrific knee injury, but he's a year on from it. The rumours are he's doing a lot of weights. He's recovering well. He's 29 years old, so you're not going to get the Nick Chubb of 3 or 4 years ago, which was a top running back in the NFL. But
when
if
he
you
was
have
proper ruined. 3 years ago when he was proper ruined.
Yeah.
But if you look at it, it's a great deal for an RB2. He's on $2.5 million guaranteed, which can go up to I think it's 5 million max. But there's some of the clauses aren't really gettable if Joe Mixon's fit. So if I put it into context, we're paying Dare Ogunbowale 2.5 million, who's going to be probably RB3-4, but he's our second kicker, as we all know. But I think it's a great deal. It makes a ton of sense, and I do think I think he will be a great 1-2 with Mixon. And if it was 5 years ago, Ian would be absolutely all over this. But it's a little bit on from there.
Ian, you love Nick Chubb, so you have him on probably every dynasty team you've got. So are you happy with the landing spot?
Yeah, it's great. Great news for any team I've got him in. Yeah, and to be honest, they weren't exactly queuing out the door to pick him up. And if Mixon's going to miss some time because of his foot injury, then Nick Chubb's got a chance to come in and hit the ground running.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. It's a good move for both parties.
So if Mixon is injured and Nick Chubb proves he can't do it anymore, who's next? Is it a Gumball, the guy you should mention too?
I think
it can't be Damian Pierce.
I think we've got Nick. I think we've got Nick Chubb in to potentially do maybe something like a pick swap with someone for Damian Pierce. If I look at the running backs, we've picked up Woody Marks, who's the kid out of USC. I think he will probably step in as RB1. So just to clarify the rumours on Mixon, that he was in a walking boot he's been seen basically limping around. They think he will be fine for, what's next? Mini camps? It's not OTAs, is it? Mini camps next. So they think he should be clear for that. But if there's anything like untoward, then obviously we've got Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb's trained the last 2 days, and from the reports, looks quite sharp. But it's different when you're not in pads to when you are in pads. And he's at the end of the day, like I say, he's 29. We don't know how good our O-line's going to be either. So it may be that he looks a little bit better, but we've still got one of the worst O-lines in football. So there's that element to it. But no, I think Woody Marks will probably be it, because we traded up to the 4th round and gave away a 3rd round pick for him. So I think he would probably be the one. I think Damien Pierce gets caught.
Nico Collins here for me. You've got no running. There's a chance you've got no running backs at all, and we're back to year 1 of CJ Stroud, where he's just got to do it all himself. Which I'm alright with, because I've got him on a few teams, so that's fine by me. In other running back news, what has interested me across the rookie draft season, and I appreciate not everyone's done their dynasty rookie drafts, and we've not done a few. We like to spread them out across the summer, and some people like to do them the minute the NFL draft finishes, and some people aren't bothered until August comes around. But in the ones I have done, RJ Harvey has just risen and risen and risen, because it's like, oh, Denver have got themselves a new running back. Well, Denver have got themselves another new running back, because J.K. Dobbins has signed after a good 10-game spell with the Chargers last year. He's now going to be in the mix at the Broncos, which I think is a really good signing for the Broncos.
I'll let Ian start on this one.
Yeah, he might be a good signing for the Broncos, but for anyone that plays fantasy football, just avoid that entire backfield.
I don't know.
I don't want to get drawn too much into this, because I'm going to talk about RJ Harvey later.
Okay. You want to keep your powder dry.
I do. I don't want to. I was going to be filthy, but I was going to be filthy, but no. I'll wait.
Now I'm all intrigued as to whether RJ Harvey's a rave or fade, or whatever we're calling it. Is it fade or fade or rave? I should have written that down. H, anything to add on the Broncos backfield before we get stuck into best ball?
I'm not as out of it as Ian is, but I think it's one of those where you've got to kind of pick a little bit more wisely, because I think J.K. Dobbins does take a bit away from RJ Harvey. But I'd probably say best ball, the well worth a gamble, both of them, which is standard really for me. Like, if in doubt, say it's worth a stab.
So everyone's
realized it's game over.
If you do enough fantasy, if you do enough best ball drafts, you can just have a stab at everybody, can't you?
Yeah.
Right.
I don't think it affects RJ Harvey's dynasty. I will say that.
No. Let's talk best ball.
Yeah.
So we're gonna sort of run through best ball ADP from top to bottom. Now, there are lots of different ways to play best ball, lots of different formats. We are big supporters of the JTT Cup, which launches in 37 days. And I believe, I should have checked this, I believe they still have a few places available. If you want in, so contact the guys at JTT Cup if you want in. So we're going to use as we were all in various JTT Cup leagues, and I know a few listeners are, we're going to use their rankings and their scoring format in terms of looking at ADP. It's 10-man leagues, so we're talking 10 rounds, so we'll look at a couple of rounds, 3 rounds at a time. So we'll start off looking at the top 30 and who we like and who we don't like. The things to mention, it is a super flex best ball, so obviously QBs are pushed up. So you'll hear us talking about QBs a bit higher or a lot sooner than you would do in a single quarterback best ball leagues. There are a few scoring differences which will obviously affect ADP. The only one that really stands out though is there's a 0.5 point reception bonus for tight ends. So some of the tight ends will have been pushed up in ADP as well. The rest of it is stuff like 200 plus. If someone has a 200 plus yard receiving game, they get an extra 2 points. That's not going to push anyone's ADP either way. So it's all just a bit of scoring stuff. So on the whole, I don't think there's anything else we need to mention, unless I've missed anything.
No.
So we'll go. Obviously, we're not going to go through this man by man. That'd take absolutely weeks. We're just going to use this as a sort of format to look at who we like and who we don't like at the top of drafts. And I'm going to look to you, Ian, because I know you will be the man with the most research and the most prep. And I know that you've got certain players you want to talk about. So give me someone. Let's kick it off. Give me someone you like in the top 30.
Oh, right. So we're starting on a positive.
Yeah.
So who am I raving about in the top 30? Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah. I think we've touched on this, or we've touched on this already, but I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, like we all know that H loves the kids. I'm a sucker for an old boy who might still have something in the tank. So when we get to talk about Eckler and Chubb, I'm your guy. And for me, CMC is in the old man with something left in the tank category this year, and someone I would reach for.
This is we need to do our planning. This is like behind the curtain stuff for a second. We need to do our planning meeting for next year, but H loves the kids sounds like a great feature for like rookie of the week or something.
Yes.
2025. Maybe that's what we'll do. We'll do H loves the kids, and then Ian's like old man of the week.
Ian loves the pensioners.
Yeah. Ian's old guy who did it again. But yeah, McCaffrey, I think he's a gamble. There is a, and this is why he's down at 23. And obviously QBs have been risen up ahead of him, but there's still quite a few running backs ahead of him. There's a world where he doesn't play this year again.
Yeah,
like,
he's already training now.
Yeah, he is, but there is a world where he kind of like, or he plays one game and then gets injured and you don't see him again. Like that is mixed. That is built in with Christian McCaffrey. But if he plays 17 games, he's finishing as a top 2 or 3 running back, easily.
Yeah,
and I don't think you will find anyone who will argue that.
No.
He's because it's a Shanahan offense, and the 49ers run through McCaffrey.
Yeah. It's not just that. It's not just the running with him. It's the passing. The fact that he's involved with the passing game a lot. Like tons of receptions. Even with the receivers that they've got, CMC is. We've seen it last year how badly San Francisco struggled without CMC on the field. They didn't look the same team. Their offense lacked a spark. He is coming off a huge injury, so it'd be interesting to see how quickly he can kind of get clicking. And I think with him already training, there's a likelihood is that he is going to be sort of raring to go from the start. To get him at 23 is ridiculous. That is a really good one.
Yeah.
But whilst we're on that, the one right below him, I don't understand how Derrick Henry is at 24. I understand he's old, but Derrick Henry has not even looked like dropping a step yet. And I think that's ridiculous. I love Henry. I always have. He always puts 200 yards up against the Texans. He's an absolute beast. So if you put it into context with him, 2024, he finishes RB4. 23, he finishes at RB8, which was probably his worst year, other than the year that he was injured. He was 2022 4 and 2020 he was 3. He's always in that top 5, and I'm very high on Derrick Henry.
So
I don't think. Go on.
Since I did my prep for this, which was yesterday, and looking at it today. Yesterday, when I looked at this, McCaffrey was actually at 24 and Henry was at 23. So in the space of 24 hours, the general public are kind of leaning towards what I'm saying anyway and taking CMC over Henry.
To be honest with you, if I was, what's that? second round, third round. If I'm
Third
getting Derrick Henry or Christian McCaffrey in the third round, I'm very happy. I would happily reach as it would be in the second round for him. I would pick both Henry and McCaffrey over London, Achan. I'd take him over Mahomes at 16.
So we can all agree that we're raving about CMC this year, then.
Yeah, 100%.
I think we can. Derrick Henry, I sort of agree with you. I think the fact that he doesn't catch the ball is always going to be a mark against him in fantasy. And I think he's like the 7th running back off the board, so he's not low. He's just everybody above him catches the ball. So he has to go for 2,000 yards and 15 touchdowns to have anywhere near.
Ashton Denty doesn't.
I think you might find Ashton Genty probably will.
He probably will in
a lot more
for the
Derrick
Raiders,
Henry
but he didn't for Boise State. I think he had very, very minimal catches in college. But
you mentioned Mahomes. I get the impression that Ian's eyes lit up. He wants to talk about Mahomes. But before we do, just one from me. I know we've already mentioned him. Nico Collins at 20. He's about the 8th wide receiver off the board. I think he's set for. If you want to start the draft with a good wide receiver, as I like to do, and you're maybe in this Superflex format, you take a quarterback, and then the top 5 or 6 running wide receivers are off the board. Nico Collins is the sort of player who will give you a floor every week in best ball and will just set you up so that you can kind of go, right, I know he's probably going to give me a good score, and then a bit further down, I'll take those shots at people who are going to have 3 or 4 good weeks across the season. So he's worth mentioning. But I'm gonna go back to Ian. Am I right? Do you want to talk about Mahomes?
I'll talk about Mahomes. Mahomes is someone who I'd be fading in this format. This isn't an anti-cheats thing or anti-Mahomes thing. This is pure because of fantasy. I think there is the leaning, or there is the belief over the last couple of years. Mahomes hasn't been someone you covet as a fantasy football quarterback. As good as he is in real life, it doesn't necessarily always translate to fantasy points. And it was the case last year when the offense wasn't scoring. It wasn't scoring over 30 points. But I think he's about at the right place in terms of where he is amongst the QBs as the 6th QB off the board. But as an ADP of 16 overall, I'm just not having it. He wouldn't be the 16th player going.
I agree with you because of what you just said. In that I think the top 5 in pretty much any format. We're talking best ball, but I think in any format, those top 5 are in sort of tier 1, and you can position them how you want. You can put them in whatever order you want. Some people like some more than others, but I think most people would give you the same top 5. And then I think he's in a bucket with several others, and the thing, because he's got the name Patrick Mahomes, he's gonna rise to the top of that bucket. And I think you're right in that I don't think I'll end up with him in my team, because I don't think he gives you much more than a Baker Mayfield who's going 17 spots later, or potentially a Herbert who's a bit ahead of Mayfield. Or I think he's in that same bucket and the same sort of category. And for some reason, because he's called Patrick Mahomes, there's always that chance that he's going to go back to the Patrick Mahomes of 3 or 4 years ago, where he's throwing 45 touchdowns and 5,000 yards and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I get the hype because he's Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown's going to be back for the season. You've got Jalen Royals, who might nail down a starting spot, and you can never discount Travis Kelce. I know he's a year older, bad year last year for Kelce. But Mahomes had now back-to-back years of sub 300 points, which made him a QB8 last year and a QB11 the year before. So fair enough. You are right, actually. Yeah. So I'm just not buying him as that high.
No. I agree. I agree totally what you said on all the points. So the top 5 is a top 5. I'm very similar to what you said there, Ian. He's roughly around that 6, but he shouldn't be 16. And like Pete said, it's because his name is Patrick Mahomes. I think he is closer to. So Bonix is at 27, Herbert 30, Baker 33. If you put Mahomes at, say, around that spot, 29, 30, I wouldn't bat an eyelid. I wouldn't be taking Mahomes at 16. I think it's way too high. He's as good as he is, and he is the best current NFL quarterback that's out there in terms of like what he does. He will win you games as a quarterback. He's had 2 years where fantasy football wise he's not been brilliant.
No, and I think with a lot of this, the defense comes into play. Like if his defense isn't as good this year, he's going to have to put more points. It's the same with it's the opposite of what happened to the Bengals. So if the Bengals defense improves this year, you could make the argument that they're probably not going to score as many points because they're not going to have to. I mean, the Bengals were scoring 30 odd points and losing last year. Like they're not going to. Hopefully, if they've sorted that out a little bit, you're not going to have to score as many points every week. Lean on the run game a little bit more. And that's what the Chiefs have been doing. And they were. I mean, they won a lot of games last year, but they were winning them. I don't want to say they were stuffy because that's the sort of thing you'd say. But they were winning them tactically, or the Broncos were missing a last-minute field goal and all that sort of stuff. So it's like their record.
Flag on the play.
There was a little bit. There was a little bit of luck along the way, and I think. The thing is with Mahomes, everyone's going to come into the year and go, "Oh well, this could be the year that he comes back," and that's why he'd be at 6. But I think you're right. I can't see him ending up especially in this format. I can't see him ending up in any one of our teams when draft comes around in 6 weeks' time. Who'd you like a bit further down in the sort of 4 to 6 rounds?
Yeah, so 31 to 60. I mean, does someone else want to go first on this one?
No, I want you to go first.
Okay. I'm liking George Kittle.
Yeah. I think he's underrated this year.
Yeah, I mean, I do. I mean, I'll start off by saying I was looking at the 31 to 60 range. Everyone in this range seems fairly priced. You might disagree, but everyone looks quite fairly priced. But so he's not much of a rave to say that Kittle should be going 2 places higher than he is at 48.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that he should be going over Laporta, who is at 46.
Yeah.
I think just signed a new 4-year deal, which blew my mind. I didn't think George Kittle wanted to play football for the next 4 years. He's now in a position where he's got less competition for targets, with Debo gone and Ayuk looking likely to miss the early season. Juwan Jennings showed that he can do it. Can be a reliable target for Purdy. But I think if CMC comes back, that opens up a load more space for Kittle. Because teams are going to have to drop down into the box. They're going to have to cover CMC coming out the backfield, swings and screens and things like that. I think that's going to open up a lot of intermediate routes for George Kittle. And I think he's primed for top 3 definitely. But he's looking for his 5th consecutive top 5 season. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's top 1 or 2 this year.
I think the thing with Kittle is like, yeah, you can look at him and go, right, him and Laporta are going roughly the same place. I'd pick him over Laporta. And I'd agree with you on that. The thing for me is, I love McBride. McBride's going 19, so that's the back end of the 2nd round, whereas Kittle's going the back end of the 5th round. And I mean, that's a big difference. So, and I don't think it's the big. If you get the season that I think you could, and obviously there's injury risk built into that in the same way there is with the CMC argument, in that you don't expect Kittle to play all 17 games, he's going to pick up an injury, but this is NFL players; they could all pick up an injury. So, I just kind of think if you're in that position where you're kind of like looking at Trey McBride at 19, as I will be, and Nico Collins is next to him, and you've got the choice of them two, and then a bit further down, you're looking at Kittle and McLaurin is next to him. You're kind of like, right, well, do I want McBride and McLaurin, or do I want Collins and Kittle? And it's like, that's a no-brainer to me. Like, the draft might not necessarily fall that way, but that's the way I'd be going if it was me.
Yeah, agree.
H, anyone who stands out to you?
I really like Chase Brown at 42. I think he could go a few places higher than that. He's impressed throughout last season. Is he heading into year 3 now? He's clearly the number one in Cincinnati now. I know they've just drafted Taj Brooks, but there's obviously the situation with James Cook at the minute. I'm not taking a risk on that until that's sorted out. I like Chase Brown enough to take him over T. Higgins. I like my running backs. I always have. So I'd probably take him over him. Depending on the quarterback situation, I'd probably take him over Caleb because I think I do genuinely believe he's a really good running back. And then the two just above that is Hampton and our mate Karen. To Karen Williams, and I think he should be in that category of a little bit higher, about 4 or 5 places higher. But that there's so many players that I'm not high on that I cannot believe that 30 to 60 is just, in my opinion, there's so many players that I just go, that's just ridiculous that they're that high. Well, that's my opinion.
Well, fair enough. Complete opposite to what I was saying then. Brilliant.
Yeah.
And that's all. It's all about how we'll all value players differently, obviously, won't we?
Yeah, I mean, you look at, so if we very, very quickly do it, 31 Marvin Harrison Jr., I do think he's going to have a better year. Josh Jacobs, Baker Mayfield, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Brees Hall, Garrett Wilson, Kyron Williams, Marion Hampton, T. Higgins, Chase Brown. I'm absolutely fine with all of them. It's same with the 2 tight ends. I've very similar to you. I have Kittle above Laporta, but that's me. And then the rest of it, like for me, I'm not picking Rashee Rice. I like Terry McLaurin. I don't mind him at his spot. Ted McMillan's way too high. You could argue Tyreek Hill could have a bounce back year, but Willie probably not. So yeah, there's just a lot where I'm just not keen on. And then a little bit further down, if I remember right, it's like Kamara, Chuba Hubbard. It's just a bit high for me. But I like younger players, so
going back to Chase Brown, it surprised me looking at his stats because I feel like when I was watching the games towards the back end of last year, I felt like he was getting loads of targets and loads of dump offs. And over the course of the year, he only had 54 catches on 65 targets. So clearly that wasn't happening. That wasn't happening. And it just must have been something that I just sort of saw and remembered. I thought he's gotten a lot of PPR points here where he wouldn't necessarily get them moving forward. And I think he's a better runner than I've given him credit for. And I think he's Taj Brooks was what, 4th round? 5th round?
5th.
I mean, you're not drafting a 5th round. Nobody's drafting a 5th round running back, especially in this draft, to kind of be like, oh, well, we think we're going to replace Chase Brown. They didn't go after anybody in free agency. They're not going after anyone at the top of the draft. They believe in him. It's a good offense. I was like, I agree. I think Chase Brown's a good shout.
I think Brown is also one thing that could help him is if the Bengals can actually do anything on defense this year. And I think I know it's going way off here, but AI Golden's a huge part of that. They've not really made major changes on the defense, which means he trusts the people that he's got there. So if he can just get half a defense, the likelihood is that Chase Brown is going to do a little bit more groundwork, and they've got one of the best offenses in terms of quarterback and wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 in the NFL. He is very likely then that if they get going, he will be handed the ball off. And just on the dump off thing, I thought the same as you, Pete. And when I went back, the more splash plays, so the likelihood is we've seen them because they are big splash plays that he's had to make. And I think that plays another key part in why I'm quite high on him, because he does make those big plays.
Yeah, it's all yards after the catch.
Yeah.
Before we move on to people I don't like, I just want to give a quick shout out to the man at the very bottom of this, so the very end of the 6th round, if it goes on ADP. Chuba Hubbard is exactly the same. Underrated for he had a good year last year. They gave him a ton of money. Like he's not a fancy player. He's not the sort of player that you pick and you go, oh, he's exciting. Like I really look forward to watching him. But there is a world where the Panthers take another step in the right direction this year, and he's the main running back, and Bryce Young takes a step in the right direction. And again, at the end of the 6th round, you're not asking him to do an awful lot. every week. You're just asking him to give you a bit of a floor so that your splash players can come through. And I think feels when you look at some of the other running backs going like way ahead of him, 2, 3, 4 rounds ahead of him, he feels like a little bit of a value for me at the end of the set.
Yeah, I could agree with that. He's definitely better than the one above him.
Who's the one above him?
Kamara.
Now he does get a lot of dump offs. I did not.
Yeah.
I did not imagine that. So I know that. In fact, let's have a quick look. How many targets do we think Kamara got last year?
600.
He got 89 targets, 68, and only caught 68 of them. That's how bad the quarterback play is. He's getting a 3-yard dump off and they still can't hit him. So that's Derek Carr for you, or whoever else they had in there. Is there anyone in there? Obviously out of the 30, there's about 28 that H thinks are in the wrong position or too high. I don't know who else. I'm waiting for the next, but I'm assuming he thinks all of the next bunch are too low, and then he just wants to switch them around. But is there anyone that stands out to you, Ian, in terms of other than Caleb Williams? Because you hate the guy.
I hate such a strong word, but it's also accurate. Still in the 31 to 60 range. I'm going to disagree with you on your last point, Pete. I think Chuba Hubbard is too high.
Really?
And this is more personal opinion, to be fair. Yeah, I just don't think he's any good. I get that he finishes RB14 last season. He's coming off the board as the 20th running back. But there's 3 running backs below him, Judkins, David Montgomery, and James Conner. I would take all 3 of those over Chuba Hubbard. He's been in the NFL for 4 years. Last year was the only year where he scored more than 5 touchdowns and 1,000 yards. Adding to the fact that the Panthers have picked up Rico Dowdle, who ran for 1,000 yards himself last year. I just don't see how much work Chuba's going to get, and I would fade him out of the top 60.
They gave him a ton of money. He's their man.
Hold up. They also gave Miles Sanders a ton of money.
Yeah, they did. They gave Miles Sanders $8 million.
But he's not there anymore, and he couldn't do it. So
that's exactly the point.
Chuba proved he could do it last year. He was their running back. He was good.
I don't mind Chuba.
Rico Dowdle muddies the waters. He got 1,000 yards himself last season.
Over Rico Dowdle doesn't muddy any waters.
It's just 2 bang average running backs.
Right.
I don't mind Chuba Hubbard at 60, but there is the running back literally right below him that I would rather pick, which is Judkins.
Monty, and James Conner I would take over Chuba Hubbard.
They gave Chuba Hubbard $33 million.
I know, it's ridiculous.
They've given Rico Dowdle $2.75 million. That's not them going, oh well, we think you're as good as him. That's, we need somebody else in this room. They rate Rico Dowdle as much as one leg Nick Chubb. He's coming in at the same level.
No, it's more of a we've way overspent on Chuba Hubbard, so we're going to cut him so we can get Rico Dowdle in for cheap.
Right. Okay. We'll see. I didn't want Chuba Hubbard to turn into one of the guys that I have to root for this year, but you're pushing me. You're pushing me down that road.
I am negging you into Chuba Hubbard in every draft.
I'm not doing it.
That's your next shirt.
There's not. I'll be honest with you. I'm leaning towards Ian. The one player, and he's in this category. So the one player I'm going to bring up before we move on to the next round 7 to 9 is, and I don't want him in any format. And I used to love the guy, and I used to big him up more than his ADP and all that sort of stuff. And now I've gone the other way, and it's a complete age thing. Is Mike Evans, and it's the same in any format. I don't want him in. Obviously, I don't want him in Dynasty, but I don't want him in redraft. I don't want him in any of my best balls. And I've got nothing against him, and nothing would surprise me less, than him putting up 1,000 yards, because that's what he does. But when someone's put up 1,000 yards a season and God knows how many touchdowns for 11 seasons on the trot now, that just tells me one thing, and that he's old. He's really, really old. Like, but 11 seasons is a long time to be playing NFL football, and he misses games a lot. And I mean, when you look at the 1,000 seasons, I think there's about 4 times he's literally got there by 3 yards. So
Yeah, I saw one. It was like 1,003. He was like, come
yeah, like last year, I think he had 45 targets in the last game of the season. They were desperate to get him. The other team knew they were going there, and he still got to 1,000 yards. But nothing. It wouldn't surprise me if he had a good year. I just don't. He's one of those players, and I think I did this with Derrick Henry last year, and I was wrong in that. I'm not expecting to be right, but I don't want to be the one who drafts him and then find out that this year is the one where, because I think Mike Evans will fall off a cliff when it finishes. I don't think he'll go, oh well, I had an average season. I just think it'll finish.
I think
A bit like Julio Jones.
how do I put this politely? I think
politely to Mike Evans.
well, I'll tell you what then. He is nailed on for another 1,000 yards. Absolutely nailed on. My personal opinion is that Chris Godwin coming back is going to help him massively. Jalen McMillan showed last year how much of a weapon he can be. Cade Otton showed up for a couple of games. I think all of those factors, they've obviously taken Emeka Egbuka, which is someone I'm going to talk about later. I think all these players, especially Godwin coming back, really does help out. He helps out Mike Evans.
Okay. As we move into the rounds 7 to 9, before you give me any players that you like, I am interested to hear what you. Now we're a couple of months removed from the draft, and we've read bits and pieces. I'm interested to hear where you're at on Travis Hunter and how you feel about him.
He is a player that I literally, and he's probably going to buy me. He's probably going to buy me in the house at some point during the season. He's a player that I literally could not care less about.
Okay.
Unless you are playing in an IDP league, I have got no interest in Travis Hunter. Unless he falls massively in the draft. Unless I'm playing IDP, I don't want him.
So he's going start of the 7th round, 63. How far has he got to fall for you to take him? Sounds like he's got to fall quite far.
Yeah, at least a full round.
Yeah, which isn't going to happen.
At least
someone's going to get excited.
No, it's not. It's not because someone loves the kids and they'll definitely take him.
Yeah,
not me. Not me. Nah, I agree with you on this one. Travis Hunter is not somebody that I'm overly interested in. I'll be honest, I think trying to play 2 ways in the NFL is going to be too tough. It's not the same as college where you're playing against, in all honesty, he didn't play against the greatest teams. He wants to do it, but there's also the factor of somebody called Brian Thomas Jr. in his team who is literally elite. And yeah, I'm not keen on him. So that's somebody that I'm not. But I'm not really keen on many of the receivers, if I'm completely honest, out of this draft. Obviously, Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel, because they're just going to be absolutely amazing. But
obviously, yeah.
But no, it's like I said, Ted McMillan's the first rookie wide receiver off the board, and I said he's too high at 50. So yeah, I think Travis Hunter's too high as well.
Who do you like, Ian?
I do like Justin Fields.
He's on my list as well.
ADP of 75, going as QB 19 off the board. After being canned by the Bears, then messed around by the Steelers. Just to give him a 2-year contract, and he go out there and try and prove that he belongs in the league. And there's a lot of pressure on Fields this year. There's a lot of eyes on him, and I think it's going to bring the best out of him because the Jets giving him a 2-year deal. When he went to the Steelers, he was there as QB2, and they didn't design the playbook around him. It was a Russell Wilson playbook with some stuff for Fields chucked in. And when I say some stuff, it was an outside zone read run. And that was pretty much it. That was all they gave to Fields. I think the Jets are going to actually go out and design a playbook for Fields. Add in the fact that, we got Breece Hall and Braylon Allen in a running back. Breece Hall, I think, is primed for a big comeback year. So I'm high on both Fields and Breece Hall. And I know you like Breece Hall, Pete, so you'll agree on that one.
I've moved into panic mode on Breece Hall. His career just might have been over by that injury, and he's just not. I mean, I think he's younger than some of the rookies that have come in this year. He's just still only 23. Well,
but like, there's a lot.
He's
There's a
not
lot.
finished.
There's a lot going for Fields. Garrett Wilson, receiver, Breece Hall, the running back, new tight end, rookie tight end, and the main positive is that it's not Arthur Smith calling plays.
Yeah, I think when was Arthur Smith calling plays?
Steelers.
Oh, I'm with you. Yeah, I thought you meant the Jets. I was like, when was he in the Jets? No, gotcha. I read something this weekend that said the Steelers would have preferred to get Justin Fields back rather than bring Rodgers in, which could have just been a complete nonsense. But
No, so Schefter reported it that the Steelers tried. Their number one choice was Justin Fields. Their number two choice was Matt Stafford, and the number three choice was Aaron Rodgers, which fills Rodgers with loads of confidence that they wanted him from day one. But that's what, Schefter reported that. I want to say it was on McAfee show. But yeah, that was were the rumors.
I mean, I'm not gonna. No one's gonna feel sorry for Aaron Rodgers. And at the same time, I don't think the Steelers were his first choice either. So, like we all know, he wanted to go to the Vikings or somewhere else. What surprised me about that, though, was that Fields did okay, and then they just put Wilson in. I was like, well, and this was the very point that I made 12 months ago. It's like, if you think that give Fields a season and see if he's any good before you have to then offer him a contract. It's almost as if they've gone, we don't want to see if you're any good, and then we'll get to the end of the year and try to offer you a contract anyway. It's like, well, that makes no sense whatsoever. So
yeah, it was pretty baffling because, like, in no world were they ever keeping hold of Russell Wilson.
No,
ever. So why not just give Fields a season?
I don't like to do it, but I'm just gonna make the point that I was right. So.
But then, like, if they're saying like their preference was to keep hold of Fields, don't mess him around the way you messed him around.
Yeah,
he was already playing quite well. They were 4-2. They had a decent record. It's like, just carry on with him and see what happens. Then you know whether you wanted him.
No player in their right mind would have gone back after what happened to Justin Fields. And I get, he went back and he was in the team. He was a team player. He understood the reasons, and he still kept his head down and worked hard. But in the back of his mind, he's like, screw you guys. There is no way I'm coming back here next year.
I agree with Fields. What I like this sort of area for quarterbacks. Obviously, you're going to need at least two. You're going to ideally attempt to get three quarterbacks in if you're playing Superflex. Now, I think if you can get one early on, get one of the top 5 or 6 that we talked about, I'm more than happy to wait until the back end of this the back end of the teens, as you talked about Justin Fields being in 20. The one that stands out for me, and I know I'm a bigger fan of him than you two are, but I think Dak Prescott, if he stays fit, could have another big year, because I just don't think they've got anything at running back. Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders, and some 5th round rookie is about as inspiring as it doesn't get at running back for any team. And I think they brought Pickens in, and I think it will just be another season like 2 years ago where he has to chuck it all over the place to Lamb and Pickens. And I think he could pull up some really big numbers if he stays healthy, if his receivers stay healthy, because I think they're going to be having to chase games. They're in a much tougher division than they used to be in, and I think they're going to be in a few shootouts.
Yeah, completely agree.
I've got a real quick one as well, just in the 60 to 90. It's Cortland Sutton. Cortland Sutton at 83. I would take him over Williams, Olave, Pickens. He's a wide receiver 1. He finished wide receiver 15 last year. He's got another year of developing with Bo Nix. I think that is a really big player that probably target around that, like mid-7th.
Yeah,
I like
definitely.
Sutton. I like Ingram. I think he's a good addition, but I don't think it's going to take anything away from Sutton. I think it's just going to help. I mean, he's clearly the number one there. There's no debate about it. There's not that many, there's not that many teams clear number one that's falling this far in a draft. Jameson Williams is an odd one for me. I can't work out how I feel about him or what I think is going to happen. I'm just like steering clear in every best ball I've come across him.
He is a best ball player, though. Like, he will either go for 25 points or 2. Like, he's that type of player. I didn't realise he went for 1,000 yards last year until I had a brief look at him when I was having a look at this. I could not believe he went for 1,000 yards last year. But then you look at it, there was games where he went for 20 yards and games where he went for 170, and it's like, well, that's where it is.
And you,
we do have to remember that it's best ball and James Williams is around here because this time last year, this will have been around where Gabe Davis was because people are like, this is best ball.
Where's Gabe Davis on this list?
Well, he's not got a team, has he? So
the Steelers, isn't he?
Potentially, he had a visit, didn't he?
Oh, hold up. The Steelers aren't going to sign him ahead of Alan Lazard, Jordy Nelson, Eddie Lacy,
Cobb.
Randall Cobb, yeah.
Randall Cobb. Bring back Randall Cobb. While we're talking wide receivers, he's at the top end of this list, but I really like him. I think he's a very good player, but he's so frustrating in redraft. And so maybe he is a bit more of a best ball player, but Devonta Smith is a top receiver. And at the start of the 7th round, depending on how your team's looking, I think he's worth a shout as well. Before we move on, did you say you wanted to talk RJ Harvey? I
did, and we were just talking about the Broncos, which is great. But yeah, we have to remember that Sean Payton doesn't care about your fantasy teams, especially when it comes to running back. Like last season, nobody wanted anything to do with the Broncos' backfield, which was Javonte Williams, Jaleel McLaughlin, and Audrey.
They weren't very good.
Yeah, but Javonte's gone, and which made the RJ Harvey pick in the draft a very sensible thing to do. And he's obviously been hyped up to replace Williams' workload, which is why he's got up there as an ADP of 68, because everyone's been pushing the RJ Harvey kind of narrative. Now, they've just signed J.K. Dobbins, so I'm expecting this number to plummet. And I've not checked the difference between yesterday and today, so he might not be at 68 anymore.
He is at 68.
Is he still at 68?
Yeah.
I'm not going anywhere near RJ Harvey at 68 now that Dobbins is signed.
Yeah, it feels a bit high for a rookie. And I mean, we're not talking first round rookie. We're talking like later in the draft. Not that much later in the draft, but later in the draft, day 2 pick. And it feels like the one. I think he will have a good year. I think J.K. Dobbins will have good games. I think RJ Harvey will not necessarily take over, but will be getting the majority of the work at least by the end of the year. I agree with you. Sean Payton will just randomly bring in Audric Estime or whoever for like random like drives, and it'll just kill you if you've got RJ Harvey. But I think by the end of the year he will have the majority of it. I just think it's a bit of a gamble. Whereas there's other rookie running backs you could look at and kind of go like a Henderson. I look at Henderson and think, that will be your job by the end of the year. Like he will be the 3 down back for probably by mid-season.
Yeah.
It's an interesting bunch though, because you're at the point in the draft where you're just mixing in the likes of Metcalf, Montgomery. We mentioned Pickens, where it's kind of like they're getting a bit hyped up, but they're not really no one's expecting massive things. And then this is where they just throw like random rookie running backs in. And on that point, I mean, 11 spaces below RJ Harvey is Caleb Johnson. And I think he's if you gave me the choice of the two, even if they were next to each other, if you gave me the choice of the two, I'd go Caleb Johnson, because I think we've already talked about the Steelers haven't got much in terms of receivers. I think they will, and it's Arthur Smith. He will lean on the run game money.
I also think that the fact Tyler Warren just isn't that good.
Jalen Warren.
Jalen Warren, sorry, yeah. Like, he's just not that
Tyler
good.
Warren's flipping great, I'll have you know.
Sorry.
Best tight end in the NFL.
Yeah, like I saw somebody today put a tweet out like, "Oh, don't be put off by RJ Harvey because of Dobbins, because someone like Caleb Johnson, who's his next, has got Tyler Warren, not Tyler Warren. I've done it again. We'll just say Warren. I'm just there's no comparison between J.K. Dobbins and Warren. I think Dobbins is a far better running back. Warren will get probably the pass catching downs, but he had a chance to be RB1 last year, and a couple of Steelers fans that I know were like so high on him, and quite frankly, he just wasn't it. He was poo. I was going to say something else, so I'll just go with poo because it's a nice one. But yeah, I think these rounds here, 6 to 9, is where I would find myself happier because I would have more options than sort of 30 to 60. Because I'm looking at the list, I'm far happier looking at what I'm looking at here than I was previously. But yeah,
I'll trade you all my
we'll do it.
Picks for all of your 31 to 60s. No problem.
Yeah, we'll do it.
Everyone's happy. Let's see if Matt Cullen can sort that out. Put you in the same division, and then just saturate. I can imagine everyone else in that division is going to be like, "What is going on here?" Hey, just like, I don't want to pick in the 4th, 5th, and 6th round. I want to wait. I want to wait on the value. We need to move
Travis
on.
Kelce's low. Sorry.
Yeah, he is a little bit. We need to move on, but I'm not moving on without saying that Jalen Waddle's an absolute steal at 87. So
let it go, mate. Let it
go.
Go.
I'm moving it on. Come on.
All that needs to be said. Right, we'll do the next sort of 30 and then just randomly who we like below, because otherwise we're going to turn this into a 2-hour podcast. We're getting into old man territory here, so Ian is probably getting very excited. Swift's in there. I know Swift's not that old, but it feels like he is. Swift, Aaron Jones, Chris Godwin, Tony Pollard. You must love it in this part of the draft.
I do love it, and you've just mentioned him, but I'm still raving about DeAndre Swift.
No, we're not talking about DeAndre Swift.
No, I'm not doing it again. I'm not even having the conversation. He's absolutely rubbish.
No,
did we talk about him on the last pod?
I don't. I mean, I probably talk about him on every pod.
You talk about him that much. I don't know whether it's on the pod, off the pod.
His supposed breakout year this year finished him as the year just gone was RB19. Move on. He's rubbish. He has been RB18, RB15, RB21, RB20, RB19. He will finish roughly around 19 to 21.
Top 10 this year, boys.
He's not. 10. He is absolutely rubbish.
Top 10. I mean, like we've covered running backs finding new teams. You know, we talked about Dobbins, we talked about Dowdle. Swift somehow managed to not only remain in Chicago, but also watched every other team pick up a new running back apart from the Bears. So the only competition for the RB1 is still Roschon Johnson, who isn't good, and Kyle Monangai from the draft. So it's looking pretty safe. But
But the problem is Ben Johnson got rid of him once, and he will probably do it again at some point. He has got a big contract there. That is why they're not moving on.
We're moving on. There's other people to talk about.
Go on, top 10 this year.
We'll see. Time will tell. There's quite a few I like in this area. I've already mentioned Evan Ingram. I think he's potentially got a good year. But the one player I really wanted to talk about is quickly becoming my guy for 2025. I think Jaden Reed is going to establish himself this year, and he's going to establish himself as the number one wide receiver in that room. And this is my argument. Everyone said there's loads of competition, but this is my counter to that. His competition is Christian Watson, injured, not due back until October, November, can write him off. Romeo Doubs in a contract year, no talk of contract, They're clearly moving on from him. Drafted 2 wide receivers. He's not competition either. Dontavian Wicks can't catch. Right. Anybody who he had a couple of good games last year, and then anyone who like spent all of their fab and got him in on waivers will tell you he can't catch. Like he is. I mean, in fact, let's
Were
get his
you one
numbers
of
up.
those people?
Yes, I was. Yeah. He had 39 receptions last year on 76 targets, and
Solid.
I haven't gone
Solid.
back and watched. I haven't gone back and watched the 76 targets, but I know that Jordan Love isn't that bad. So he's not
Yeah, but
competition.
on context of that, you can have a target from a quarterback throwing it away because you're the one in close proximity.
76 targets and 39 receptions each.
No, I'm not disputing it.
Roughly 50%.
I just don't get your hype on Jaden Reed.
He's not. I'm explaining it to you. Christian Watson, no.
All right.
Romeo Dobbs, no. Dontavian Wicks, no. So that only leaves the 2 rookies that they brought in. Savion Williams, 3rd round pick. No one cares. 3rd round picks, not gonna. They don't make it. They're not gonna do it.
They don't make it. They don't make it. Nico Collins, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Do I need to go on? They do make it.
I will read you the 10 names of 3rd round wide receivers from the last 3 drafts. Right? You tell me which one of these is a superstar. Where are we? Jalen Tolbert, Tank Dell, Jalen Hyatt, Cedric Tillman, Josh Downs, Michael Wilson, Trey Tucker, Malachi Corley, Roman Wilson, and Jalen McMillan.
None of them before.
None of them before.
Tank Dell's not a bad player.
Yeah, you're always going to get the odd one, but on the whole, like the hit rate's less than 10%. So no, he's not a problem. So the only competition that Jaden Reed has actually truly got is Matthew Golden, who I think, and I said this from the start, the Packers would not have picked if the draft wasn't in Green Bay. They wanted to make a splash, and Matthew Golden wasn't getting that much hype until he ran really quickly. And granted, Xavier Worthy is looking like a decent wide receiver. But how many times? I'm looking at you, Ian. We all know where this is going. How many times has someone ran really quickly at the combine and then they've gone, "Oh, well, let's draft him higher than we need to"? It's happening.
Can I just caveat that and say that the first drafts that I think it was Lance Zierlein did last year had Golden going in the 1st round. That was before pre-draft. Bucky Brooks had him going in the 1st round. He was always going to be a first round wide receiver. The problem is all of these receivers that you've mentioned.
Did these same people have Shedeur going in the 1st round?
Yeah, exactly. Point proven. Mic drop.
Right. Let's not get into the Shedeur debate again because it's not worth it. But my issue is all of the Packers wide receivers are wide receiver 2s. There's no one that is a standout wide receiver 1. Jaden Reed had a better year in his rookie year than he did it last year when he should be developing more, when he should be better. I'm not in on Jaden Reed. I think the Packers do have an outstanding wide receiver room. I think they've got an outstanding quarterback. I don't see Jaden Reed higher than the others, and that's why I won't touch him. You can have him in any leagues we're in. You can have him. I think Golden. I think Dobbs, Wicks, Williams, Watson. They're all very good players. Or they're very the talent. Yeah, you're right. Jaden Reed isn't. They're all they've all got talents, but they're not. None of them are wide receiver 1s. And
I don't know a lot about children coming into the NFL, so I'm not. I don't pretend to be. But my one last point on Golden is that everybody I read told me that Ted McMillan would probably not have been a first round pick last year in last year's draft. So he wouldn't have been a first round pick, and Travis Hunter's slightly different, but him and Egbuka still got taken ahead of Golden. So if Golden had been last year, he wouldn't be a first round pick. He's not a first round pick. He's a 2nd or 3rd round pick, and
3rd round picks don't make it.
Yeah, 3rd round picks don't make it, apart from Nico Collins. So when Jaden Reed to the moon. Thank you very much. I will take
You
it
can
in
have him,
every
mate.
format possible.
I will tell you, anyone listening, don't draft Jaden Reed and you'll be happy.
I am that is where I'm planting my flag for 2025. I am Jaden Reed. In fact, I'm going to buy a shirt. I'm all in on Jaden Reed.
Jaden Reed and Chuba Hubbard.
And Chuba Hubbard, apparently, which I didn't know before today. The other wide receiver I like is Khalil Shakir at 120 in best ball is an absolute bargain for me.
Mm-hmm.
End of the 12th round? Yes, please.
Yeah.
He's the number one. He's been proven he's the number one. He's now getting paid like he's their number one. I don't. There's no argument. I think I've got Shakir and Jaden Reed in almost every best ball I've done so far, and I get upset when I don't get them. That's enough from me. Has anybody got anything they want to add?
Yeah, I've got a fade in this range.
Go for it.
And I know we just talked about Golden, but it's another rookie, Egbuka. I said I was going to talk, and H might disagree with me on this, but I cannot for the life of me see how Egbuka is going at 111 and as the wide receiver 41. I am massively high on Baker this year because of the weapons, and those weapons aren't. I'm not counting Egbuka. I'm counting Otten, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Jalen McMillan. You got to look at the targets coming out of the backfield for Bucky Irving and Rashad White. There's just not enough. There's not enough to sustain Egbuka as well. It's not going to happen. But then you look at the 6 receivers going after him: Deebo Samuel, Jaden Reed, Jacoby Myers, Khalil Shakir, Javon Jennings, and Cooper Kupp. All of them should be getting drafted before Egbuka.
Especially Jaden Reed.
Especially Jaden Reed, yeah. So I've got Egbuka's ADP actually around 121 and not at 111 and around wide receiver 48 rather than being wide receiver 41.
Yeah.
I love Egbuka. I said he was the best wide receiver coming out. I didn't like his landing spot for fantasy football. He in Dynasty, I said it, he's going to have a very similar career to JSN in the fact that he will be really slow the first year and then will pick up. I think he will probably be wide receiver 3 there because you don't draft a wide receiver 1 to bench him. A first round receiver to bench him. But I agree with you. He is not worth touching in best ball right now.
Is he better than Matthew Golden?
I said it from I said it on the rookie thing. Yeah, I like Egbuka more than I like Ted McMillan. So
because Golden's rubbish.
Golden isn't rubbish. Golden will be a very good wide receiver too, just like Jaden Reed.
Sorry, I couldn't help myself. I've completely forgotten where we're up to now. I've lost all track.
Have you got anyone you're going to fade in the 91 to 120 range?
I've got one that I like, which is Javon Jennings. I think he's a little bit low at 119. I'd take him a little bit higher. Fading Jaden Reed. No, there's not. Tua, I'm not high on Tua. I never have been high on Tua. I'd rather Stafford. He's probably around that. He is around that area, but there's a Darnold is maybe someone that I'd look at because I think he's got good weapons there. He had a really good year last year, but Tua's a little bit high for me. I don't mind the area. ETN's too high, and I'm higher on. And I'm massively higher on Evan Ingram than the world, apparently. Evan Ingram at 112 seems really bad to me. Yeah.
Tua, I know what you're saying about Tua, but at the same time, he's like, because of the form, he's quarterback 24.
Yeah, I don't. He's a bit of a weird one. He's a really good quarterback if it's under like 5 yards, and he has got really good weapons. But I think you made a point.
To be fair, so am I.
Yeah, I think Pete, you made a point last year. Like they scored like 50 points in one game, and he got 18 points, and it was like he disappoints in fantasy football.
They scored 80 odd points in one game.
Yeah, and he scored like 10, 15 points. It's just like
there was a 4-week stretch when he came back last year where he was a top 10 quarterback, and in 4 straight weeks he scored 24 or more points, and he had a really good. But a lot of it was. The Dolphins are going to be interesting this year because a lot of last year was dump it off to Achan or throw it 20 yards downfield to Johnny Smith, and there was nothing to Waddle. There was nothing like there was none of this stretch in the field. Whereas the year before it was like bit of play action, get Tyreek Hill free, and let's throw the ball 50 yards and Tyreek Hill will go and catch it. And there was like explosive plays, and then they had Mostert, Achan. They could run all over teams. Whereas last year it was a little bit more, and it was almost as if once Tua got injured, they really needed to get the ball out of his hands because he is one big hit away from finishing his career and possibly damaging the rest of his life, which is like a little bit worrying. There's got to be a bit worrying if you're Mike McDaniel. But at 24, if he can stay, he's proven when he stays healthy, he's probably a top 12 quarterback if he stays healthy for 17 games. And I think he's a gamble, but at 24, if he's like your third quarterback, it's a 10-team league, so he's going to be your third quarterback, depending on you others. I think he's got the upside that's worth a gamble. It's just whether you take him that high. I appreciate what you're saying. Whether you take him that high when there's other wide receivers and running backs around that area.
But it also ties in what you think Tyreek Hill's going to do this year. If you think Tyreek Hill's going to have a big year, then take Tua. If you think Tyreek Hill's finished, leave Tua alone.
It's not finished. He's 29.
A lot
Tyreek
of it
Hill is not 29.
A lot of it depends on. I think a big thing will be Johnny Smith's sitting out, isn't he? He's sitting out. He wants paying, which to be fair,
trying to get that move to the Steelers.
After last year, I would want paying too. Like now is the time to push for some money. So, right, let's wrap this up with just give me anyone further down the list. I'll tell you what, give me a late round quarterback you like, and then
Aaron Rodgers at 148. I'm joking.
I was taking a lot of Daniel Jones.
I get that.
I get that.
Draft. He was going last round in 20 round best ball draft, so he just felt like a decent pick. He's not going to go that late anymore because I think all the news recently, everyone's coming around. We've all said it for several weeks, but I think everyone else is coming around to the fact that he's going to start the season and the Colts are going to go with him. I don't see any other option at this point. So he's not going to. He's currently at 186. He's going to rise up. He's behind Milrow and Sanders and Rodgers and Shook and Dart and Wilson at the moment. So it's like he's going, and Richardson, and he's gonna rise up through that. So that opportunity might have been missed. But who was the one you said, Ian? Sorry,
I didn't say quarterback, but while we're on the Colts, someone who I'm raving about in that 120 and below area is Michael Pittman. What the hell is the Colts wide receiver 1 doing all the way down as wide receiver 52 with an ADP of 132?
Just had a very, very bad year last year, didn't he?
Yeah, he had a very, very bad quarterback.
Yeah, there's an argument that he might not be number 1 anymore and Josh Downs might be number 1. And I think there's an argument that neither of them are actually number 1 and we've probably got 2 number 2s. So
just like the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, we'll see. Running back, anyone you like him running back wise?
Jaden Blue at 145. I think he could take over as running back 1 as the season progresses. He may start a bit slow, but I have a funny feeling he may be running back 1 by the end of the year.
I don't think, is he big enough to be?
Javonte Williams will be on IR by week 3.
Yeah.
He's 5'9", 196. He ran a 4.38. He's not a bad player. I personally thought he was a little bit better than a 5th rounder. His problem is sometimes he is a little bit more of a pass catching back, but there are pass catching backs where they can be very productive. You look at somebody like Rashad White and Bucky Irving, they are realistically, when it came to the NFL, they were more pass catching backs. They've just found a way to make it work. He's far from a Deuce Vaughn, if I put it that way. He's far from that, but he is a slightly smaller back. He's one of them that's probably more suited to outside zones and things like that. But I still think he could easily take over as the wide receiver one running back one there by the end of the year.
I looking at some of the ones that are going later. Ian, if you took McCaffrey, would you?
Yeah, Guerendo, absolutely.
Yeah,
handcuff him with Guerendo, 100%.
Yeah, 163 currently going. That seems like a 17th round. That seems like is worth backing. I think there's also a world where they could kind of go, let's protect McCaffrey a little bit and give Guerendo some work, and then you're getting both sides of that. Guerendo potentially is. I'm not saying he's going to take massive amounts from McCaffrey, but I mean, after the injuries he's had, they'd be stupid to kind of just go, well, we're just going to give you the ball every single time. So Guerendo might have games, and then he's a good handcuff. I do like Roschon Johnson. I liked him last year, and it didn't come off. But I think where he's going in the 20th round, I think there is a chance that coach's name's gone out of my head. There is a chance that he goes in there Johnson. And kind of goes, actually, I want to run with 2 backs because that's the way I like to do it. And Swift's going to carry some of the do some of the 3rd down work, but actually we're going to leave with Roschon Johnson as the battering ram to start things off and take the goal line work and all that sort of stuff. So I think he's worth a stab.
Got one other running back, if I may, Bayshard to Jacksonville. I think he could end up as RB1 there this year because Big Fee and ETN. He definitely is.
He's rising up. A wide receiver, I like Mooney. He's not that far down at 140. But I mean, he had a good year last year.
Yeah.
I know you picked him up in a few, Ian. I like Bateman. I think Rashad Bateman's a decent best ball player. I don't want anything to do with him in redraft because you never know when the game's coming. He's a bit Gabe Davis. But I think did I hear today they've just given him 30 million over 3 years or something. So
it's a while ago, but yeah.
Yeah. So they've just paid him. He's going at 159, so back end of the 15th round. And as a really sort of late round shout, at 250, so we're talking start of the 26th round, I like Kayshon Boutte. Because
don't start H on this. H loves a bit of booty.
I love Boutte.
I did not know that. How have I missed that? I mean, he's 23. He's a bit old for you, but I think.
Yeah, but with a name like Boutte, come on, I'm all over that.
It's the exact same reason I like that cunts.
I think
they're not very good. But they got great names.
There's a world where Stephon Diggs just doesn't work out for me. Didn't think he had a great year last year. He got injured. I mean, and even if you take away all of the boat stuff, which we won't get into, I think there's and
although I wish we could get into it. So, Stefan, if you're listening,
we'll send you invite. I think
just on Boutte. So not his last year at college, the year before, he was. I think he had more targets and more receptions than Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr., but he had a really bad last college year. He started poorly in the NFL. I was really high on him, so I drafted him in our dynasty draft. What was it, last year or the year before, when he was a rookie, and he just he's not quite shown it. But when he had Drake May, towards the end he had a few big catches. So I don't mind taking a stab at him where he is.
I think he's worth a go.
I think now he's had that developmental year. Like Booty will be more rounded now.
I like it. The bit that disappointed me about what you just said, Age, and it just proved that you are a little bit more serious on this podcast, and you like your numbers. But when you started talking about, it wasn't last year, it was the year before, I really hoped there was a college boat story. It was like, he's actually a bit like Stephon Diggs. He was caught doing this and the other. But no, it's just, he's just putting up numbers like a good wide receiver should. Anyone you want to add wide receiver wise, Ian?
No. You get so far down, they're all much of a muchness. Like they're all great best ball shouts. Every one of them can have a decent game.
I would like to point out 175 Cedric Tillman when he had Jameson Winston last year. Sorry, he went off for a few weeks. He may be worth it. I think he's heading into year 3 this year.
Was throwing me the ball, so let's have this 40 times a game. So
yeah.
Touchdown, pick 6. Touchdown, pick 6.
What was number 4? 192 Jalen Coker for the cokeheads out there. I think he could. It's funny because you look at the Panthers wide receivers, and it's similar to what I would say with Green Bay, is where a few of them could have fairly decent seasons without like being a number 1. And Coker showed quite a few good signs last year, so he could have a few big games for them. So I like Jalen Coker.
More than Leggett?
I don't know. Leggett was a bit of a disappointment. I thought he was going to be far better.
I like Leggett. Have I brought this up? I like Leggett this year, and
I do like him.
It's got absolutely nothing to do with me watching film and thinking he's better than he came up with. Have you seen him going around doing interviews and stuff?
Yeah,
that guy has got the best voice in the NFL. He sounds like, and if you've not seen, anyone who's listening, if you've not seen it, it will not. I promise you, it will enrich your day trying to listen to Xavier Leggett on an interview. He sounds like he should be. The only way I can describe it is he sounds like he should be in Forrest Gump. That's my.
Just for the listeners, Pete, can you just do a quick impression?
No, I'm not. I'm terrible at impressions. So whenever I try and do an impression of someone, it always comes out like half South African and half Jamaican, and that's it. That's just every single one. So no, that's not what I do. But he's good. You should look him up. I really hope he has a good year, and I think Bryce Young will have a better year. So I think the Panthers have got the last one from me in terms of tight ends. I think Cole Kmet's getting written off because of Loveland, and I mean it's very easy to just kind of, and we do this a lot in fantasy world, and kind of go, yeah, they've got a new toy now. And it's like I don't think he's dead, Cole Kmet, and he's being drafted like he is. He's middle of the 20th round. I think if you've taken a gamble on a couple of tight ends, he's worth throwing into the mix as a 3rd or 4th tight end.
I'd prefer the one above him, and I would put him up a few ahead, which is Jatavion Sanders at Panthers. Again, another Panthers player, but I was massively high on him coming out of college. He's very good. On the Panthers. I'm not, but I am. I've always been I think it's similar to the Chargers with me with the Panthers. I just have a soft spot for them, but I think they are far better.
Yeah, I wonder why.
Cam Newton. But no, I do think they're a better unit. I think I said it last year. The hire of Dave Canales was huge for them. He proved it with how well he developed Bryce Young, and I think they could take that next sort of step together. It's a young group on the offense, and other than Thielen, and a tight end that is a pass catching tight end is someone that you want to have in your side, and that is what Sanders is. So I think he's potentially a little bit better than Chigakonkwo, Cole Kmet, Dalton Schultz. In terms of like fantasy value this year, I would take him above them, but I wouldn't go as high as Gesicki at 170. I think Gesicki's a better option.
Okay, I've just realised we've been rambling on for about an hour and 25 minutes. So, Ian, H, well, yeah. Anybody want to just throw out a name just to wrap us off? I don't. You don't even get to explain it. You can just go this name.
Kyle Pitts.
Lovely. That's a great way to finish. And on the next episode, we'll find out whether Ian likes Kyle Pitts or doesn't. Who knows? We are going to do a best ball. We're going to do a mock next time. So we'll have a bit of fun with that. We will try and keep that under an hour because this has really dragged on. But it was fun. So hopefully everyone, I mean, we've enjoyed it. We've enjoyed doing it. Hopefully everyone who's listening or watching has stuck with us this far and has enjoyed listening or watching it. Follow our stuff at JMD Pod on all of the social media networks, on YouTube, and like and subscribe. That really helps us. And as we approach our third season, any sharing, telling your mates, getting other people to listen will be much appreciated. And that's it from us. Until next time.